Isabel had spent most of her young life aware of her striking beauty, a gift that had often brought more trouble than joy. People admired her, men pursued her, and yet, time and again, she had experienced betrayal and heartbreak, learning the hard way that her looks could be a weapon used against her rather than a blessing. Determined to protect herself from further pain, she made a bold decision. She would hide her appearance, conceal her charm, and reinvent herself as someone ordinary, someone unremarkable. She dyed her golden hair a dull chestnut, let her carefully maintained curls fall into lifeless waves, and adopted drab, shapeless clothing that hid her figure rather than accentuated it. She even practiced a stooped posture and a withdrawn expression in the mirror, rehearsing the persona of a woman no one would notice or desire. With this disguise in place, she left her old life behind, venturing into the remote mountain region, where winters were harsh, isolation was common, and anonymity could offer her the safety she craved. The rugged terrain and wild forests promised solitude, yet Isabel's heart remained wary, anticipating that any mistake could expose her to attention she did not want. On her very first day, as she wandered through the dense forest collecting herbs for her simple meals, her path unexpectedly crossed with Logan, the infamous mountain man. Known throughout the region as solitary, formidable, and unpredictable, Logan commanded both respect and fear. When their eyes met, Isabel felt an unsettling awareness that she had never encountered before. Despite her carefully crafted plainness, he seemed to perceive more than she intended to show. His gaze was steady, almost assessing, yet not prying in a cruel sense. It was the look of a man who had spent years reading the land and people with an unerring instinct. She hurried past him, pretending to be nothing more than a frightened, unremarkable wanderer. Yet she could feel his eyes follow her as she moved, leaving a strange mixture of anxiety and curiosity in her chest. That moment planted the seed of something she had not expected, the realization that perhaps, in this vast and untamed world, someone might see beyond her masks, glimpsing the real Isabel hidden beneath layers of self-imposed obscurity, setting the stage for a connection that neither the wild mountains nor her carefully constructed disguise could fully contain. A few days after their first fleeting encounter in the forest, Isabel found herself caught in a sudden, fierce snowstorm while foraging for herbs and firewood, the wind howling through the pines and freezing her to the bone. Her body trembled not just from cold but from the creeping fear of being stranded alone in the unforgiving mountains. And she realized that survival might depend on seeking shelter, something she had vowed never to do with anyone, especially a stranger. With snow obscuring the path and visibility near zero, she stumbled upon the outline of a cabin tucked into a small clearing, its chimney emitting a thin wisp of smoke like a quiet beacon of hope in the white wilderness. Driven by desperation, she approached and knocked on the door, expecting either indifference or rejection. Yet the door opened almost immediately to reveal Logan, the mountain man whose reputation for solitude and fierce independence was known far and wide. His tall, broad frame filled the doorway, his eyes a striking blend of curiosity and caution, and his presence radiated both strength and a surprising warmth. Isabel tried to maintain her carefully constructed plain demeanor, shivering and muttering a barely audible plea for shelter, while Logan's gaze softened slightly as he studied her. Noticing the exhaustion in her posture and the chill that still clung to her despite her layers of clothing, without a word of judgment, he stepped aside and gestured for her to enter, offering the warmth of his cabin and the comfort of a roaring fire. As she took off her gloves and scarf, she became acutely aware of every detail: the rough-hewn logs of the cabin, the scent of pine and smoke, the quiet crackle of fire, and the unspoken strength in Logan's watchful presence. Though Isabel kept her guard up, refusing to reveal anything more than necessary, she felt an unfamiliar sense of safety in his home, a feeling that had eluded her for years. Logan, meanwhile, observed her with subtle interest, recognizing glimpses of intelligence, resilience, and gentleness that belied her plain exterior. Even in silence, there was a growing, unspoken understanding between them, an acknowledgement of mutual respect and the possibility of trust, fragile yet undeniable. In that small, snowbound cabin, amidst the isolation and howling wind outside, Isabel felt the first stirrings of a connection she had long tried to avoid, an awareness that perhaps there was someone capable of seeing beyond her disguise, someone who might notice her true self without coercion or expectation, setting the stage for a bond that would challenge her fears and slowly, irrevocably, draw her toward a love she had never anticipated. Over the following weeks, Isabel settled into a cautious rhythm in the mountains, balancing her need for survival with the growing awareness of Logan's presence in her life. Though she remained vigilant, guarding the truth of her past and her carefully constructed plain exterior, circumstances often brought them together, as survival tasks in the harsh wilderness required cooperation and shared effort. Isabel chopped wood, tended the small garden, and prepared meals, while Logan taught her essential skills: how to navigate the forest, track animals, and read the weather signs that could mean life or death. At first, their interactions were strictly practical, each careful to respect boundaries, but subtle signs of connection began to emerge. Logan, who had long relied only on his instincts and solitude, noticed the small nuances. Isabel tried to conceal the delicate way her fingers handled herbs, the gentle precision in her movements, and the quiet empathy she displayed toward the injured wildlife that crossed her path. Isabel, for her part, sensed that Logan's awareness went deeper than casual observation. He seemed to read her moods and intentions with an uncanny understanding that left her simultaneously uneasy and intrigued. Though she worked diligently to maintain her plain persona, she caught herself occasionally meeting his gaze, feeling a flicker of something she had buried long ago: the desire to be truly seen and appreciated. Their trust was tentative and fragile, built in small moments, Logan offering practical guidance without condescension, Isabel sharing tips about forest plants and remedies without revealing her past, and both learning to navigate silence comfortably. Yet even in this fragile equilibrium, Isabel was acutely aware of the tension between attraction and caution, fear and hope. She worried that any slip of honesty could shatter the fragile trust she had begun to place in him. And yet, she could not ignore the sense that Logan's perception went beyond the exterior she had masked. The days became a blend of hard labor and quiet companionship, with laughter occasionally punctuating the routine, softening the walls Isabel had erected around her heart. Slowly, imperceptibly, an unspoken understanding took root. Logan's respect and attention were not drawn to the superficial, but to the depth, intelligence, and courage he sensed in her, qualities she had long hidden from the world. Isabel realized that this uneasy trust, built on necessity and observation, was evolving into something more profound, a connection that challenged her fear of exposure and stirred feelings she had thought she had buried forever. In these shared moments, she felt the first stirrings of hope, that perhaps someone could value her for who she truly was, not for the disguise she had so meticulously crafted, planting the seeds of a bond that promised to grow into a love neither had anticipated but both quietly hoped to explore. As the days turned into weeks and the weeks into a full season, the bond between Isabel and Logan began to deepen in ways neither of them had expected. What started as cautious cooperation for survival gradually blossomed into genuine companionship, each finding comfort and strength in the other's presence. Isabel, who had carefully guarded her heart behind layers of self-imposed plainness and isolation, began to feel the walls she had built slowly crumble. She laughed more freely now, the sound mingling with the crackle of the fire in the cabin or echoing softly through the forest during their daily routines. Logan, in turn, revealed glimpses of a softer side he rarely showed to anyone: a protective instinct, a quiet humor, and a patience born of years spent alone in the wilderness. He taught her not only how to track game or tend the land, but also how to listen to the subtle rhythms of nature, and Isabel's curiosity and quick learning impressed him in ways words could not express. With every shared meal, every repaired fence, and every long walk through snow-laden trails, they began to anticipate each other's presence and reactions, creating a rhythm of intimacy and trust. Despite her efforts to remain guarded, Isabel found herself drawn to Logan's steadfastness, his honesty, and the warmth that radiated from him even in the most unforgiving conditions. She noticed small details she had never allowed herself to appreciate before: the way his eyes softened when he spoke to an injured animal, the rough yet careful way he handled the tools, and the quiet confidence with which he navigated the wild. Logan, equally aware of the subtle sparks between them, began to see past the facade she had so meticulously crafted. He recognized intelligence, resilience, and an innate kindness that no outward disguise could conceal. In moments of silence, they shared glances that conveyed more than words ever could, a silent acknowledgement of mutual understanding and respect. Isabel realized that she no longer feared being truly seen, for Logan's regard was never based on appearances. It was rooted in recognition of her character, her courage, and the gentle strength she often denied herself. In this growing connection, the mountain, the isolation, and even the harsh winter seemed less formidable, replaced by a sense of shared purpose and the quiet thrill of companionship. Slowly, subtly, an unspoken promise began to take shape, that in each other they had found not just survival or convenience, but the possibility of something far deeper, a love forged in trust, tempered by hardship, and destined to flourish, despite the masks Isabel had once thought necessary to protect her heart. The fragile tranquility Isabel and Logan had built was suddenly threatened when a shadow from Isabel's past appeared in the mountains, breaking the quiet rhythm of their secluded life. One cold evening, as the sun dipped behind jagged peaks and cast long, golden streaks across the snow, a stranger approached the cabin, his eyes sharp and calculating. He recognized Isabel immediately, and the moment he stepped into the clearing, a chill ran down her spine, not from the cold, but from fear of exposure. This man carried knowledge of her past life, of the betrayals she had tried to escape, and he had come with intentions that were anything but benign. Panic surged through Isabel, her carefully maintained composure cracking as she realized the danger he posed not only to her anonymity, but to the fragile sense of safety she had begun to feel with Logan. She tried to reason with him, to plead for discretion, but his smirk and mocking tone made it clear he would not be swayed. Seeing the fear in her eyes, Logan acted without hesitation. Though he rarely allowed anyone close, he stepped forward, his presence commanding and protective, placing himself between Isabel and the stranger. His eyes, usually calm and observant, hardened with determination and an unyielding resolve. He refused to allow her to be threatened, insisting the intruder leave the mountains immediately. And his confidence and authority left no room for argument. Isabel, watching Logan confront the threat, felt a wave of gratitude and admiration she had not anticipated. He wasn't merely defending her body, but her dignity, her right to live life on her terms, without fear of her past being dragged into the present. In that moment, she understood something profound. Logan's regard for her extended far beyond superficial attraction, and he saw her as more than a vulnerable woman needing protection. He saw her as a person deserving respect, safety, and autonomy. The encounter left her shaken but also deeply moved, as the realization sank in that someone could truly value her for who she was, beyond appearances, beyond the masks she had worn for so long. The threat, rather than driving a wedge between them, became a turning point in their relationship, cementing a bond built not just on shared survival but on trust, protection, and mutual recognition of each other's worth. That night, as the snow fell quietly around the cabin, Isabel sat near the fire, feeling a mixture of relief, awe, and a new stirring of love. Knowing that Logan's choice to stand by her in the face of danger was a silent promise of the steadfast devotion she had longed to find, and one she was beginning to allow herself to accept. After the confrontation with the stranger, Isabel realized that the safety and trust she had cautiously allowed herself to feel with Logan was stronger than she had anticipated, yet she also understood that her carefully constructed facade could no longer fully protect her heart or their growing bond. That evening, as the wind howled softly outside the cabin and the firelight flickered across the walls, she made the difficult decision to reveal the truth she had kept hidden for so long. The disguises, the false plainness, the years of fear and self-imposed isolation that had led her to this remote mountain. Her voice trembled as she began to speak, recounting her past betrayals, the heartbreak that had driven her to conceal her beauty, and the careful measures she had taken to appear ordinary, to avoid unwanted attention and vulnerability. She braced herself for judgment, rejection, or at the very least, a pause that would shatter the fragile connection she had worked so hard to nurture. But Logan's response was nothing she had feared. Instead of surprise, ridicule, or disappointment, he listened intently, his eyes never leaving hers, reflecting a calm understanding that seemed to see straight through the masks she had worn. When she finished, a heavy silence settled in the cabin, not awkward but profound, filled with the weight of honesty and the gravity of shared trust. Then, slowly and softly, Logan reached out, taking her hands in his rugged, weathered ones, and told her that he had never cared for the exterior she had presented. He had always seen the real Isabel, the intelligence, courage, and gentle heart that no disguise could conceal. Tears welled in her eyes, a mixture of relief, joy, and the lingering remnants of years of fear, as the tension and uncertainty that had clung to her like a second skin finally began to dissolve. In that moment she understood that love was not about appearances, but about recognition, acceptance, and unwavering regard for the soul beneath the surface. Logan's steadfastness, patience, and ability to perceive her true self without expectation or judgment became a mirror in which she could finally see herself as worthy of love. The barriers she had built around her heart slowly fell away, replaced by a deep, tender trust and the first real stirrings of vulnerability she had allowed anyone to witness in years. That night, under the soft glow of the fire and the silent watch of the mountains outside, Isabel felt an overwhelming sense of peace, warmth, and hope, a profound knowledge that the man beside her had chosen her not for the beauty she had hidden or the plainness she had feigned, but for the essence of who she truly was, and that their bond, now fortified by honesty, could grow into a love strong enough to weather any storm the wilderness or life might throw their way. With the truth finally revealed and Isabel's heart unguarded, the bond between her and Logan deepened in ways that neither of them could have anticipated, evolving from cautious trust into a fully blossoming tender love that infused every aspect of their shared life in the mountains. No longer burdened by the masks she had long worn, Isabel found herself embracing joy, laughter, and even playful teasing with Logan, discovering a sense of freedom and authenticity that had been foreign to her for so many years. Their days became a blend of hard work and soft intimacy, chopping wood together, tending to the small garden, gathering herbs, and preparing meals, each task infused with a rhythm of companionship that felt effortless yet profoundly meaningful. Logan's admiration for Isabel's intelligence, resilience, and quiet strength grew as he observed her navigate challenges with determination and grace, while she, in turn, found solace and courage in his unwavering support, protection, and the quiet confidence that radiated from him. Even in silence, their connection was palpable, a deep understanding conveyed through glances, gestures, and the unspoken language of shared experience. Isabel discovered that she could be entirely herself in his presence, her laughter genuine, her thoughts unfiltered, her beauty no longer something to hide but a reflection of the self she had long denied. Logan's love was steadfast, patient, and unconditional, rooted not in superficial attraction, but in the essence of who Isabel truly was, a truth that resonated in every look, touch, and word between them. Together, they explored the mountains, braving storms, celebrating small triumphs, and reveling in the quiet moments of domestic life that became sacred in their isolation. With each passing day, Isabel's fear of rejection faded, replaced by a profound sense of security, belonging, and exhilaration at being seen and cherished for her authentic self. Their love, forged in adversity and tempered by trust, became a force that illuminated the rugged wilderness around them, turning the harsh, unforgiving landscape into a sanctuary of warmth, passion, and mutual respect. By the time spring returned to the mountains, melting snow into streams and painting the trees with fresh greenery, Isabel and Logan had established a rhythm of life together that was unbreakable. A love that was both tender and resilient, playful and profound. In each other they had found not just companionship, but a soulmate connection, a bond that celebrated courage, vulnerability, and the recognition that true love transcends appearances, masks, and past wounds. In the quiet glow of firelight and under the expanse of endless mountain skies, Isabel felt a sense of completeness she had never known, understanding fully that Logan's unwavering choice to see and love her for her true self had transformed her world entirely, and that together they would face the future not with fear but with hearts fully open and intertwined. By the time spring had fully arrived in the mountains, melting the last patches of snow and filling the air with the fresh scent of pine and wildflowers, Isabel and Logan's love had grown into something enduring, unshakable, and profoundly intimate, a bond forged through trust, honesty, and shared hardship. The hardships of the harsh wilderness had tested them, yet each challenge only strengthened the connection between them, proving that their affection was not fleeting or superficial, but rooted in recognition of each other as true selves. Isabel, who had once masked her beauty and hidden behind a carefully constructed plainness to protect her heart, now stood fully revealed, confident in both her appearance and her inner worth, embraced and cherished by a man who had loved her for who she truly was from the very beginning. Logan, the solitary mountain man whose life had once been defined by independence and guarded solitude, had discovered in Isabel not only a partner but a soulmate, someone whose courage, intelligence, and kindness complemented his own strengths and softened his rough edges. Together, they built a home in the mountains, a place of warmth, laughter, and enduring love where firelight illuminated not only the cabin walls but the depth of their shared affection. Their days were filled with the rhythm of work and companionship, tending to the land, caring for animals, exploring hidden trails, and savoring quiet moments beside the crackling fire, each activity a testament to the joy of life lived together. When they looked at one another, it was not simply with attraction, but with a profound recognition of the trials they had faced, the vulnerabilities they had revealed, and the trust they had cultivated through patience and understanding. Isabel no longer feared being seen, nor did she doubt her place in the world. Logan's steadfast love had become the anchor of her life, a constant reminder that true connection honors the soul beyond appearances. Their marriage, a simple yet heartfelt ceremony in the mountains, surrounded by nature and a few close friends, symbolized the culmination of their journey from guarded hearts and hidden identities to mutual acceptance and profound joy. Standing hand in hand, they felt the mountains around them not as obstacles, but as silent witnesses to a love that had endured, grown, and transformed both of their lives. In the quiet majesty of the wilderness, Isabel and Logan embraced a life together that promised resilience, devotion, and unwavering companionship, proving that love, when rooted in authenticity and courage, could thrive even in the most remote and challenging of places, and that sometimes the heart's true desire is found not in appearances or circumstances, but in the unshakable choice to see, understand, and cherish another soul forever.